Hello everybody, welcome to Virtual Reptile Expo number 3. My name is Audra, I am the owner of Lick Your Eyeballs, and this is Slinky, my pet gopher snake, and we are so excited to welcome you to our facility today. I thought we would start off right outside of our facility. We are located in the San Francisco Bay Area in California, on Ohlone territory in Castro Valley, California. And we are really lucky. Our facility is actually surrounded by an oak bay forest. So that's what we have around us right now. That's what you're seeing all around me are oak trees and bay trees, and it smells really good. So I thought I would start off outside today and introduce you to some of my neighbors because we have a lot of really cool wildlife that lives all around us, and some of this wildlife even lives around us if you live in really urban areas. California has incredible reptile and amphibian biodiversity. In California, we have tiny slender salamanders that live in the most urban areas under flower pots, and we have, giant salamanders that live in redwood forests. So we have a huge array and biodiversity of these animals, so I thought I would share a couple of them with you today. So Slinky here is a gopher snake, and gopher snakes are one of the most common snakes that we have in the San Francisco Bay Area. And they are totally harmless to people, as you probably know, and they are often confused with a rattlesnake because they have a similar pattern. And if they get really stressed out, they'll actually flatten their head and hiss at you and try to look bigger and scarier than they are. They'll shake their little tail just to distract you, right, because they want to protect their head. But they are totally harmless, and they eat rodents. These are really awesome guys to have around. This is our education animal. This isn't an animal that we found in this forest, but we do see gopher snakes pretty regularly in the wood pile here on the property. Let me show you some other animals that we've seen over the past few weeks here. So this is, I almost stepped on this tiny snake because it blends in so well. This is the most common snake that we have in California. This is a garter snake, and we have a ton of different types of garter snakes here in the Bay Area and throughout California, including the San Francisco garter snake, which is endangered. We don't have those on the property. Those live on the other side of the bay. But there are a lot of really cool snakes that live all over the San Francisco Bay Area. And it is springtime, so they are out and about. So when it's warm out, keep your eyes out. When you're outside, when you're out hiking, you want to always make sure that you know where your hands and your feet are going, because we do have rattlesnakes here. We do have them on the property. Here's a video of one that we saw. Well, actually, this was from last year. I haven't seen any yet this season. But they are out, and they don't want to hurt you. They want to be left alone. So as long as you don't step on them or accidentally stick your hands on them, you'll be okay. But they are hanging out in rock crevices. So when you're sitting down, when you're tired, taking a break from hiking, you want to make sure you know where your feet and your hands are always going, and that's how you stay safe when there are venomous snakes that share your habitat. And one of the reasons I really wanted to talk about our native reptiles and amphibians today is because it's actually been a really tough year for amphibians. Newts newts. We have rough skin newts, we have California newts. These newts rely on seasonal ponds for breeding. You know, they lay eggs that hatch into larvae that swims around with gills. It looks like an axolotl, right? These animals rely on water for reproduction. And this year, a lot of those ponds, they never filled up. We have a small pond on this property, and it got a little muddy at best, and we had no water. Whereas the first year we moved in, there was lots of water and baby toads and hatchling frogs and all sorts of stuff. So this year, these animals haven't been able to reproduce. So it's going to be a really tough year for amphibians. So with that said, I want to encourage you to think about your outside space and the outside spaces that you visit, and how can you help create habitat, right? If there is a lack of habitat, if there's a lack of water, what can you do to help? And it's really, really easy. So check this out. Last year, in the fall, we put out a water bowl because the ponds were empty. And this is just a little water bowl behind our building, and we put up a trail cam. We also put a little shelter, right? All animals need food, water, shelter to survive. I think they can find their own food here. We are outside. There's plenty of insects, assuming we're not spraying pesticides, right? If you're spraying pesticides, that's killing the insects, which is killing reptiles, food sources. I assume you're here for the same reason I'm here. We love animals, and we want to see animals succeed and be happy, both in captivity and in the wild. So I encourage you to think about your outside space and what small changes you could make that could help support wildlife. With that said, let's head on inside and meet some geckos. Let's hop right in here. I wanted to remind you that we are live in the chat right now, so if you haven't found the YouTube chat yet, find it, say hi, let us know where you're watching from today. If you haven't been to a virtual Reptile Expo before, this is how it's going to work. We are going to take our new available animals, put them in the light box so you can get up close and personal view of them. If you would like to purchase any of the animals, there are 2 steps to purchase. Step 1, type sold and the name or ID number of the animal into the chat. Step 2, email us. So 2 steps, right? Step 1, sold into the chat. That reserves the animal for you until midnight. Step 2, email us. You have to email us by midnight to confirm your hold on the animal. At midnight, if we haven't heard from you via email, it's going to go to the next person in line. So once again, step 1, sold into the chat. Step 2, send us an email. And once you have claimed your animal, there are different ways for us to get you your order. We ship all over the lower 48 states. And if you want to pick up, we have pickup available at our facility Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays by appointment. And then next Saturday, we're actually hosting an outdoor pop-up. May 15th, outside of our building, we'll have all of our supplies available for you to come check out, as well as a whole new stock and assortment of plants. So if you're not sure which animal you want this weekend, I would highly suggest that you grab a piece of paper and a pen and write down all of your favorites, so that way at the end of the weekend you know exactly what animal that you were interested in. Please do not type sold into the chat if you are not 100% committed to purchasing that animal. In addition to all of the animals being offered at discount prices this weekend, all of our supplies on our website are 20% off for you this weekend, Sunday till midnight, with promo code PINEAPPLE. Pineapple gets you 20% off of all of our plants, dry goods, and all of the animals that are already listed on the website. Let's head on over to our light box and check out some animals up close. Up first for the weekend in our light box is Jasper, a flying gecko that is licking its eyeball for us. True geckos do not have eyelids, so they lick their eyeballs. And flying geckos do not actually fly. This gecko is not going to flap its little arms and take off, but this is a gliding gecko. This is a gecko that lives in the trees. It's an arboreal gecko that has special adaptations for gliding, like this little flap of skin along the side of its body. It uses that for gliding. It also has webbing between its toes. You see all that extra skin between the toes? That also helps them glide. And the weird shaped tail, that also helps them glide and probably helps break up their pattern to help them camouflage a little bit better. These are captive bred flying geckos. Let me say that again. These are captive bred. That's a big deal. There's not a whole lot of captive bred flying geckos available. These were produced by my friend Lauren at Water Girl Creations over in Berkeley. So these are locally produced flying geckos, and they are delightful. They eat lots and lots of bugs, and they're such a fun gecko to have around. Get a closer look at its tail here. You can really see what an interesting tail they have. We have 3 of these available this weekend. I'm trying to give you shots from all angles of all of the animals, which is pretty hard because they don't particularly love the light box, but we're making it happen here. And this guy is stuck to the wall of the light box. Here is size reference. So these geckos are very quick. This is not a gecko that you want to get if you want to play with your gecko. I am showing you all of the geckos on my hands this weekend because I want you to get an idea of size. And this is a gecko that's so fast, I'm not even going to put it in my hands. This is a gecko that I will show you next to an object because they are the fastest gecko by far that we have here. This is a male, and dwarf cubing geckos are sexually dimorphic. So that means that males and females look different. So male, which is what you're looking at right here, has spots all over its body, but its tail is almost patternless and goes from orange to bright yellow at the tip. And here's this guy sitting on a quarter. This is a full-grown gecko, so you can see how big they get. This is a female, so we got banding on the tail. We have banding with light spots along the rest of the body, also yellow head, yellow tail, and we have a double tail. So she dropped the tip of her tail, but it didn't come off, and she regrew a second tail, which is really weird. So this is a baby. Babies kind of look similar to the female, and all the babies look the same. We have 3 babies available this weekend. All 5 of these Spherodactylus came from the same pair. So that male and that female are related. All of these are related. And you can see how big this gecko is. All right, up next we have Eurodactylodes agricolae, also known as chameleon geckos, but you know, I don't love that term because it's not a chameleon. It is a gecko licking its eyeballs. And they have got pretty awesome big scales that kind of evenly go down the body, which gives them a really cool look. They are omnivores from New Caledonia, so they're eating insects and fruits. We feed them, you know, the powdered diets of all types. Here is a male Webster. And you can see the small yellow scales underneath the larger green scales that just give them this really, really cool look. And the yellow scales around the ears. Just overall a really fun gecko. And these guys are surprisingly chill for a small gecko. These I can comfortably handle. This one, on the other hand, don't let this one fool you with this video on my hand. This gecko is insanely fast. So be warned, this is not a handling gecko. This is a captive bred skunk gecko. He is 2 years old, and he was produced by Water Girl Creations in Berkeley as well. And very, very fast gecko, but really fun gecko. And your standard sticky toe pads and lack of eyelids. You see he's thinking about making a break for it. All right, we have some more Eurodactylodes. This is a different species of Eurodactylodes. This is Eurodactylodes velardi, and we have 2 females available here. We've got the one in the front is Vega, and the one in the back, we will find out her information shortly here. These are about 5 to 6 months old. They are growing pretty quickly and eating everything. And these were produced by spring-loaded geckos. in San Rafael. She produces some really cool geckos. Lots of tongue licking. So these geckos are nocturnal. I definitely like wake everything up to pop it in the light box to show you guys. So we try to make it as quick as possible for these little geckos because it is a little stressful to be in the light box, but it's definitely less stressful to be in the light box than to be in a deli cup for 4 days. So there's that advantage to the animals for doing this virtually. It's definitely less stressful than it would be in real life. All right, here's a close-up here of some eyeball licking for us. Really see that incredible pattern that helps them camouflage into the forests. They do spend most of their time sleeping on branches. The best thing about this genus of geckos is they'll be basking on the top of a branch, and when you look at them, they'll turn their entire body to the other side of the branch so that you can't see them anymore. And I've been trying to get a video of it for months, and they always hide before I can get my camera out. So I will keep trying. We do have one male available of the Urodactylodes velardi today, and that's Jarrell here. And we're trying to get some shots from all sides. But you can see there is a little bit of a color difference. He's breathing kind of hard. He's like, why am I in this bright box? I guess one more shot of Jarrell. You can really see his size here compared to my hand. And this is kind of normal behavior for them. They're kind of slow, which is why they're kind of ideal. All right, moving on to the largest species of gecko in the world. This is a New Caledonian giant gecko, also known as a lychee. And this is a female. She hatched on Halloween of 2019 over at Water Girl Creations. And then this is Terrarium. He is a Moro lychee. He hatched in October from another local breeder. And he's got lots of pink coming in. I'm really excited about this guy. And then the female is a different locale. She's a new on a cross. And get a close-up of this guy's face here. Their vertical pupil, their ears, and you can see that pink coming in that I was talking about on patches along the sides. All right, it wouldn't be a complete reptile show without some Uroplatus, right? We have this gorgeous captive bred lined leaf-tail gecko. This was produced by Jason Varan in San Francisco, and he's just so beautiful. These geckos are extremely shy, extremely temperamental. You definitely want to research this animal a lot. This is not a good first-time pet lizard. This is for an experienced keeper that has time and energy to really, make sure they're doing things right. All right, let's hop into crested geckos here. This is our first crested gecko of the weekend. This is Kirby. And Kirby is a Dalmatian crested gecko with portholes. Those are the white spots going down the side of the body, as well as white knees and white fringe. And crested geckos really develop spots as they grow. So a hatchling Dalmatian crested gecko will have maybe just a few spots. And after about a year of development, you'll see more and more spots start to come in. This crested gecko is just 6 months old. So as it develops, it will continue to develop more spots. You can see that there's also a few red spots scattered in there, although the majority are black. This is Alamo, our next crested gecko. Alamo has a really nice chocolate base. It's got white knees, the white fringe. It's got portholes. And what I really like about this gecko, besides the nice contrast between the sides and the dorsal that's really light colored, is that the head is kind of a nice golden color. And as you move down the body of the gecko, the color kind of lightens up. And you can see that those pin scales along the dorsal are very pronounced and really white, which helps the high contrast, which is a trait that I'm really into. I think that's pretty cool. All right, up next here we have Campbell. And Campbell is another Dalmatian crested gecko. It's got just kind of a light brown base here. It's got portholes, the white scales going down the side, the white knees, the beautiful white scales underneath the mouth here. And it's got some spots coming in throughout the body. It's generally a pretty patternless gecko other than the tail and the portholes. And here we can see the other side of it. And you can see it's kind of starting to change colors here. The geckos do tend to fire up and fire down when we put them into the light box because it's a little stressful. You can see they're breathing a little bit hard. And that's just because, you know, we're sticking them under a really bright light to try to give you the best look at their colors as possible. Up next here we have Clyde, and check out those pin scales. They're very big, very defined, and super bright, which helps really bring out the contrast. So looking at the sides here, we can see that the sides really have distinct dark bands along the top right at the base of the pin scales, which is really nice. Up next here we have Ector, and Ector is a yellow based crested gecko that is essentially totally patternless. This gecko has just a few scales that are not that yellow, and you can see them on the knees there and where the porthole scales would be. So they've got a few white scales coming in there, and then of course the bottom jaw. But other than that and the tail, it's essentially a very patternless gecko. And you can see that it's got kind of the furry pin scales along the dorsal there. And then here's one shot from the other side. You can really get a glimpse of its kind of golden yellow color here. And then once again, the few white scales. Up next here we have Aledo, and this is another Dalmatian crested gecko that has not a whole lot of coverage, but some of the spots are really awesome. So you can see it's got a few spots coming in along the head. It's got kind of a yellow base going on, and it's got, you know, a few white spots as well. Looks like maybe it's got white knees. And it also kind of has the furry dorsal pin scales along the back. And it's got one incredible giant spot on its side right here, which I'm super into. So it'll be interesting to see if this gecko does develop more spots. I mean, it will. It's 6 months old, so it will develop more spots, and how many of them will end up being big spots like the one on its back. This gecko also does have a few red spots in addition to the black spots all over its body. And you can see they are breathing a little hard here, so we're trying to make this as quick as possible. Up next here we have a gecko with amazing contrast. This is a super harlequin crested gecko, and you can see how it's got a really dark base and some yellows coming in all over.
really cute crested gecko here. And it looks like maybe we have a few Dalmatian spots as well, and some portholes, some white scales along the sides. And check out its toes. So you can see how the toes curl up the wrong way when they walk, and that's how they release those little hairs that allow them to stick to things. All right, look at this gorgeous, gorgeous crested gecko. A really dark orange, almost red Dalmatian crested gecko doing some eyeball licking for us on the wrong side. And this gecko is getting ready to shed. So you can see that the nose looks a little bit light colored, and that's because this gecko is actually getting ready to shed its small skin, and it's going to be even more beautiful after it sheds. So check out the huge spots along the sides there. So lots of spots coming in. This gecko hatched February 9th, so it's still very young, and it already has a lot of large spots and a really, really nice base color. Although the colors do change as the geckos grow. You can see how big it is compared to my thumb here. And it's got really nice fun spots right above, below the eyes. All right, another Dalmatian crested gecko. You can tell what I'm into, red Dalmatians. So this crested gecko hatched March 11th of 2021. It's got the portholes a little more scattered, and it's got white knees, and it's got a really nice deep kind of brick red going on, and Dalmatian spots coming in. And like I said before, they will just continue to develop more and more spots as they grow up and develop. You can see the portholes along the side really well in this shot. A little spot on the head. All right, next here we have Hiko, $75. Really, really awesome color. So this is more of a yellowish orange, but also really in the orange hues. You can see his little eye turning around to look at us, and his toes getting ready to do the curl to run if they want. This gecko has really nice red cheeks, and it does have some Dalmatian spots. So I call this a flame Dalmatian crested gecko is what we're looking at here. This gecko hatched on February 10th of 2021, and it's $75. And then here is a shot from the other side. It does have a few Dalmatian spots coming in. And here is its bright red chin that I am just super into. All right, here we have Dean, and Dean is amazing. This is a gecko that if it doesn't sell this weekend, I'm gonna keep it and raise it up and see what happens, because look at those spots, huge spots all over the body. This crested gecko hatched December 25th of 2020, and in addition to the big black spots, it has a kind of orangish colored spots all over as well. You can really see them on the head there. So it's got both these ink blotches, the big spots, as well as different color spotting. I am really excited to see how this gecko develops, because I imagine this gecko is going to develop even more spots as it gets older. And here's another shot of its head, so you can really get a good look at those huge spots on this Dalmatian crested gecko. And this weekend, actually today, we're actually introducing you to all of the crested geckos that we have available this weekend. This is Leo, and Leo is an adult male who hatched November 12th of 2019. So you can see his bright red chin and eyeball licking. And it looks like you can almost see through his ear there, the light going through. So this is a Harlequin Dalmatian crested gecko with a red base. You can see lots of spots on the head there. Really nice pin scales going along the dorsal, and really thick dorsal, full pinstripe, ready to breed. Gorgeous adult male, ready to go home with you. All right, that wraps up our crested geckos. Let's hop right into gargoyles here. This is our first gargoyle gecko of the weekend. This is an orange blotched gargoyle gecko. And you can see that it's got a light orange coming in along the back and some darker orange coming in along the neck. And with gargoyle geckos, their color and their pattern really does develop as they grow. So this gecko hatched February 9th of 2021. So it has a lot of growth and development that is still to come. So I would expect the orange to get brighter as this gecko grows, as well as to fill up more of the gecko's body. Up next here, we have a yellow-based striped gargoyle gecko. And this gecko has both red and orange coming in. And like I said before, these geckos will develop more color as they grow, and the color will really fill in. And this gecko does come from red parents, so I wouldn't be surprised if that orange does turn red as this gecko gets older. I really like the thin center stripe that goes down the back here. All of our geckos this weekend are named after cities in what state? If you have figured out what state we are focused on this weekend, let us know in the chat. We are going to meet just a few gargoyle geckos this weekend, and most of our gargoyle geckos will actually be available tomorrow. All right, up next here we have a gorgeous red super stripe gecko. And you can just see how thick the color is coming in already. And this gecko hatched January 2nd of 2021. So that color will get brighter and fill out more as this gecko grows up. But there is already so much color. Check out the color on the face and the legs and all across the sides here. This gecko is just so colorful. All right, our last gargoyle gecko for today is another orange blotched gargoyle gecko. And this gecko is fired up right now. So it's a very dark color and you can see the orange coming in. Gargoyle geckos have pretty extreme color change from when they're fired up to fired down. You might come home and your gecko looks like this, and 15 minutes later your gecko is light gray. And that's when you're really going to see those orange blotches pop, is when this gecko is fired down. So like I said, we have a ton more gargoyle geckos available for you tomorrow. So stay tuned to check out what everybody else has available today and come back tomorrow for more gargs.
from Pet Shop Santa Cruz, located in Santa Cruz, California. Some of you may also know me as Crystal French Geckos. Today I have Pete here with me to help welcome you to the show. Pete is a jungle carpet python. These pythons come from Queensland and Australia. Pete is our male in our jungle carpet python breeding project. We don't have any of his babies available today or this weekend, but we do have some tiger and a jaguar jungle carpet python available tomorrow. We're going to ask that if you see an animal that you would like to purchase, you type sold into the chat along with the name or ID number of that animal, and then send us an email to confirm your spot in line for purchase. Let's go check out some available animals.
We are going to start off our first day of sales with some poison dart frogs. This is a UE line Amazonica blackwater dart frog. These frogs are also known as the Amazonian poison dart frog. They are $45 each, and we currently have 5 available. They are all unsexed and locally bred. These frogs have an amazing bright orange color that can show up as more of a bronze color depending on lighting. They also have beautiful turquoise legs with very high contrasting black spots. Again, these frogs are $45 each, and we have 5 available. Our next dart frog that we have available is a Vanzolini dart frog, also known as the Brazilian poison dart frog. These frogs are $60 each, and we have 2 available. These frogs have similar legs to the Amazonicas, however their body pattern and color is much different. They have a very saturated black base with bright yellow spots. Just like our previous dart frogs, these frogs are unsexed and locally bred. These frogs are also among our least shy frogs that we currently have available. They are always hanging out in front of their cage, people watching, or begging for more food. All of our dart frogs are currently eating small crickets as well as fruit flies. Again, these frogs are $60 each, and we currently have 2 available. One interesting fact about dart frogs is that they're an aposematic species. Aposematism is the advertising or display by an animal to a potential predator that they are not worth eating or attacking. Examples of this would be toxicity, venom, or foul taste. Their bright coloration is associated with their toxicity caused by levels of alkaloids. They have a poisonous mucus that works by entering the body through the skin. However, in captivity, the frogs are no longer poisonous because of their diet. Our last species of dart frog that we have available today is a Patricia tink dart frog. We only have 1 of this species available, and it is $45. Unlike our last 2 dart frogs, who have a solid base color, this frog has a nice gradient from blue-green to yellow and back to green. It has a bright saturated blue on the legs and belly with large black spotting. Again, we have 1 available, and it is $45. We are going to move on from dart frogs and into a few more different frog species. This is a tomato frog. We have a pair of tomato frogs available today. They are $40 each, or $75 for the pair. This would be our female tomato frog. Tomato frogs are species that have sexual dimorphism, which is a distinct difference in size or appearance between the sexes of an animal. In this case, the male tomato frogs and the female tomato frogs have a different base color, where the females are a tomato red color and the males are more of a brown color. This is the male here. And then this would be the pair of tomato frogs that we have available today, where you see the female on the left and the male on the right. Next up, we have some baby whites tree frogs. These are Australian whites, and they are $40 each. We currently have 3 available, and they are all unsexed. White tree frogs are one of the best species of frogs for beginners to start off with, as they are very hardy for a frog and have easy to manage care requirements. They also have a very manageable size as adults, where they get up to 3 to 4.5 inches. They can also be housed in live planted bioactive terrariums. They are very avid hunters. We are currently feeding crickets, however they do get the occasional isopod snack when hunting in their cage. This is a baby albino Pac-Man frog. It is $25 and unsexed. This is one of 2 Pac-Man frogs that we will have available today. Although this frog is a baby, this species of frog does grow quickly. They can reach adult size in 10 to 12 months. This is the only albino Pac-Man frog that we have available today, and again, it is only $25. The other type of Pac-Man frog that we have today is a fantasy Pac-Man frog. The fantasy frog is a cross between the Geckoan and the Amazonian horn frog. This cross makes a wide range of color in babies, both with the saturation of color and the color itself. The fantasy Pac-Man that we have available today is an unsexed juvenile, and it is $50. We are now going to move on into our available invertebrates. We have 2 types of millipedes available today, the first one being a scarlet millipede. The scarlet millipede has a solid rusty red color on its body and legs. We have 3 scarlet millipedes available today, and they are $5 each. Millipedes are a very easy pet to keep. They feed mainly on wood, leaves, and vegetables. The scarlet millipede is also a very hardy species, making them great for beginners. Along with our scarlet millipedes, we also have 3 bumblebee millipedes available. These millipedes are also $5 each. The bumblebee millipedes have a black base color with yellow striping. They also have the same diet as the scarlet millipedes of wood, leaves, and vegetables. Again, these millipedes are $5 each, and we have 3 available. Our last invertebrate that we will have available today is a Costa Rican striped-kneed tarantula. We have 2 of these striped-kneed tarantulas available. They are $40 each, or for local pickup, they can be purchased in their live planted terrariums for $150. Both of these tarantulas are unsexed and are feeding on live crickets. Up next we have some leopard geckos. This is an adult female albino belle. Her ID number is ABLG01. She is $125. This is our only other adult female that we have available today. She is a Mandarin tangerine. Her ID number is MTLG23, and she is $150. This gecko is both het Tremper and het NDBE. Will be the only adult male that we have available today. He is a super Tangelo, proven breeder, male leopard gecko. His ID number is STLG08, and he is $300. If you're planning on kicking off a breeding project, this would be the perfect male to use as a breeder. Again, he is proven, and he is a super Tangelo. This next leopard gecko is a temperature sexed female, hatched in September of 2020, and is $100. She is a possible blood tangerine 100% het for albino tremper. Her ID number is BTLG01. Our last few leopard geckos are all juveniles. They're between 3 and 6 months old. We have 3 of these Maxno Fasco crosses available. They are $89 each. The ID number for these Maxno crosses is MSFLG03. They are eating like champs, and will grow very quickly. All of our leopard geckos are currently eating a varied diet of crickets, dubia roaches, silkworms as a treat, Repashi's grub pie, and then we also do feed them some of Repashi's pro bugs. Our last two leopard geckos that we have for you today are both Max Snow Trumpers. This is our first one. Its ID number is MSTLP01. These geckos are $125 each. This is our second Max Snow Trumper. Its ID number is MSTLP02. These Max Snow Trumpers are albino geckos, so they are a little bit more light sensitive. We do have them in the light box today, however the lights aren't turned on. They are just on the white background. Our next available animals are redfoot tortoises. We currently have 2 juvenile redfoot tortoises available. They're about 4 to 6 inches in length. Here they are together. These redfoot tortoises are $3.50 each, and again we have just 2 of them available. In our climate here, these redfoot tortoises can live outside for part of the year in the warmer months. So depending on your local climate, these could possibly be an outdoor pet for you. These tortoises are omnivores, which means that they eat meat as well as fruit. They love to eat banana. They also like blueberries and strawberries. But their main diet is salad. They will also eat a couple bugs like silkworms, but mainly salad. Alright, and the last pet that we have available for you today are 2 Vietnamese giant centipedes. These centipedes are $40 each, however they are only available for local pickup. These centipedes can be dangerous, so they should only go to somebody who's an experienced keeper. This should not be your choice for a first pet. There are plenty of other great pets like the crested gecko or the leopard gecko that would be perfect for your first pet, but the Vietnamese giant centipede would not be.
Alright, those are going to be all of the animals that we have available for you today, but remember to come back tomorrow to see even more animals. If you are interested in purchasing any animals you saw today, remember to type into the chat, and we will see you tomorrow.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
Let's talk a little bit about invertebrates. Invertebrates are animals that are missing a backbone. For example, insects, arachnids, and worms are all invertebrates. Invertebrates can be kept both as pets or be used as feeders. Roaches and worms are among the most common invertebrates to be kept as pets or used as food. Let's take a closer look at what makes these animals so special. Here we have some wide-horn hissing roaches. They are a species of cockroach native to Madagascar. They are the largest species of hissing roach, reaching between 2 and 4 inches in length when they are full grown. They are scavengers. In the wild, they feed on leaf litter, rotting wood, and fallen fruits. These roaches make a hissing sound by pushing air forcefully through a pair of modified spiracles. That is how they got their name, the Madagascar hissing cockroach. Hissing is also part of the cockroach's mating ritual. and can be used as an effective alarm cry. They also have a pair of antennas. They are primarily responsible for the generation of tactile scents. Because most cockroaches are nocturnal, the tactile sense of the antenna would be essential to determine the position, shape, and texture of surrounding objects in the dark. Many choose to keep these roaches as pets due to their docile nature, easy care, and hardiness. This also makes them one of the best beginner pets for those wanting to collect invertebrates. They can be housed in small glass or plastic setups. A group of roaches can be comfortably housed in a 10-gallon enclosure. Housing hissing roaches is very simple. Their general setup would include a moist substrate such as peat moss. Nymphs burrow in the substrate, so it's important to have a deep layer. Sphagnum moss to help with humidity, and some hiding and climbing areas for the adult roaches. Leaf litter should also be provided for them to snack on. These roaches can climb glass or plastic, so a secure lid must be added to the enclosure. They should also be provided with a heat source if adequate temperatures are not met in the natural climate that they are in. Along with being kept as pets, they can be used as feeders. They make great feeders for insectivores. Larger insectivores are particularly fond of the adult roaches. These roaches are high in protein and have nearly 7 times the amount of vitamin B12 as a similar amount of beef and double that of crickets. They are also lower in chitin, which is the fibrous substance that forms the major component of the exoskeleton of arthropods. This means that the roaches are easier for reptiles to eat and digest because they don't have a really hard exoskeleton. When being used as feeders, the roaches can be gut-loaded to make them extra beneficial to the reptiles that are consuming them. This can be done by feeding them a good diet of fresh veggies and fruits, or by feeding them a supplemental diet such as Rapashi's Bug Burger formula. Another type of invertebrate that you can keep as a pet or use as a food source are isopods. Isopods are commonly kept as a cleanup crew for bioactive terrariums. When hunting in a bioactive terrarium, an animal might seek out or accidentally eat an isopod. That's okay. Isopods are a great source of calcium for your animals. These invertebrates don't take up a lot of space or time in maintenance, so they can make a great pet. You can have a whole culture of isopods in a small container. We will be teaching you this weekend how you can make your own isopod cultures at home. We do also have isopods and springtails available in-store or on our website for purchase today. Here are a couple different species of isopods. We have dwarf white, Dalmatian, zebra, dairy cow, powder orange, powder blue, A. vulgare, and many more. Now let's head over to Lick Your Eyeballs to learn about a couple more different types of invertebrates.
These are called green banana roaches or Cuban green roaches, and these are the adults. The adults are this beautiful green color. You can see how big they are here. They do have wings. Oh, as they just showed you right on command, they do have rings, and they can very easily fly across the room. Only the adults have wings though. So you see these adults, they do have wings. And then let's see if we can find some nymphs in here. All right, guys, it's time to go back. So the nymphs, so the way that I have this set up is I have a bunch of magnolia leaves, as well as oak branches and pieces of oak bark. And as you can see, that is where the little roaches are. So we're seeing all different sizes of nymphs here. You've got the little itty bitty nymphs, some that are quite a bit bigger. And the nymphs actually really do burrow themselves in the substrate, so they were all underneath this piece of bark in here. But if we dig, we can see that they're a handful of the dirt. You can see that they're actually in the soil. So here's a little one we can get a little closer look at. So the nymphs really just look like your standard cockroach. They're a little brown cockroach. But they have a very soft body, so they're an excellent feeder for all sorts of different types of herps. They are great for chameleons, geckos. They've got to be, the predator has to be fast enough to really catch them because they are pretty quick. They're really good at flying. They're really good at hiding. So definitely good food for some faster herps. Tree frogs. My fat-tailed geckos aren't super fast, but they really love these guys. And we feed them produce here. We feed them mainly things like apples and bananas. They really like the soft, sweet fruits. Let's see if we can get them to show us that they not like, what is happening? Oh, here we go. Nope. Rather climb on my finger than show you how much it likes banana. But you get the gist of it. We'll throw some more of these in there. So banana roaches are pretty cool. They actually give live birth. They carry their egg case around with them. The females do. Here, let me pull this piece of bark out so we can get a look here at the nymphs again. So the females will carry around the egg sac with them until the nymphs hatch, and you can see how small the smallest ones are. Really, really small. And you know, they'll have up to 60 babies per egg case, which is quite a few. So once they get going, they start to reproduce quickly, but it does take a little while for them to get established. Probably one of my favorite cockroaches just because of how pretty the adults are. From banana roaches, I just wanted to point out the amount of substrate that I have in here. I do at least 3 inches, and they really use it. All those nymphs burrow in here and make tunnels. You can see the adults hanging out in the leaf litter. So the adults really are hanging out above ground where the babies are hanging out in the soil, which is pretty interesting. Praying mantises are one of my very favorite invertebrates to see in the wild and to keep as pets. Because they are a very active predator, they are always watching what's going on. So you'll walk into the room and you'll see them turn their little head to see what's going on and to see what you are doing, which is pretty cool. Very, very attentive animal for being so small. This is Martha, and Martha is a Chinese praying mantis, and this is the largest species of praying mantis found in the United States, and they were introduced to the United States in the late 1800s and are very, very successful and have really made their way across the country. Praying mantids have really great vision. Helps them be successful predators, and they've got their antenna that also help them sense their environment. These front legs are what this animal uses for catching its food, for catching its crickets and flies. I think invertebrates don't get enough credit. They are a lot smarter and have a lot more going on than I think that we realize. So I would encourage all of you to spend some time just, hanging out with some inverts.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
Back here at Pet Shop Santa Cruz, we have one last invertebrate to share with you. Our last invertebrate is a silkworm. The silkworm is part of the moth family. It is the larva stage of the moth. It has 6 real legs and 5 pairs of pseudopods, which are fake legs located near the back of the body. Spun silk is made from short lengths obtained from cocoons of these moths. They are twisted together to make yarn. Silkworms are high in calcium and protein, which makes them great feeders for reptiles, but they should only be fed as a treat because silkworms are seasonal. Silkworms only eat mulberry leaves, so they only have a food source for part of the year. Silkworms are a popular summertime pet to keep for young children. They mature and go through their life stages quickly, so it's always a fun summertime project to watch their life cycle. Let us know in the chat if you have kept any of these invertebrates as a pet, or if any of your pets at home like to snack on these types of invertebrates. Remember, we are chatting live with you.
Today on the menu we have periwinkles, some Taste of the Wild, and a peeled hard-boiled egg with a little bit of calcium and multivitamins. And today's lunch guest is taking his time but coming. Turok, of course. Always eats his favorites first. Oh, I said that and then he dropped. Oh, he got the yolk though. Yolk is the good stuff. I got Turok in 2010 at the San Jose Reptile Show. And he had been captive hatched in Florida. So not captive bred, so a female had been imported. And she laid eggs when she got here. And he and a bunch of others had hatched in Florida. He was a few months old and they had been eating croc chow. Cayman lizards are specialized snail eaters. And in the beginning, really hard to keep in captivity. Those first wild caught ones that came in, or at least when I started, and the first time I ever saw them, they had a hard time surviving in captivity. I fell in love instantly. The bright red head and the green body, and it kind of fades, you know? So you can see where it's white, so he is, half of his body is shed. So he will go into the bath after eating. Actually, I always put him into the bath after eating because, I mean, he's standing on it right now, but he'll start to walk around in it because that's just what he does.
Hi, I'm Kevin from Iron Triangle Reptiles. Here I am holding a flame garter snake and an erythristic flame garter snake. So both these girls feel like they're gravid, which means babies in a few months. If you're interested, the only way to get notified that I'll have babies available is if you go to my website and sign up for the mailing list. This is day one. Let's go. Okay, first up we have an albino Japanese rat snake female. These guys' care is about the same as a corn snake. My adults are 4.5 to 5.5 feet long. They eat thawed out frozen mice, no problem. Hatch date 7/24/20. Good looking snake, something a little different. Okay, striped creamsicle motley corn snake. These are not 100% corn snake. Creamsicles are created from an albino emery rat snake and albino corn snakes. Although these days they are mostly corn snake, there is emery rat snake in them to give them that creamsicle-y look. Hatched December 18th, 2020. Ooh, look at that skull. Nice head pattern. Okay, now we have an ultramel coral anery corn snake. And the coral coloration will improve as this animal matures, giving it a nice pinkish hue. Eats thawed out frozen mice. Hatched late 2020. IronTriangleReptiles.com. Look at her go. Very cool. Okay, here we have a sulfur corn snake. Sulfur is a 3-gene combination that is caramel and amyl, which makes butter, and then you add in the blood red. So butter blood red equals sulfur. This one hatched 9/15/20. Will eat thawed out frozen mice, but she gave me a pain because she prefers live, but that's all right. She's doing good. Okay, here is a sibling to the previous one that hatched on 9/15/20. Another sulfur. Eats frozen thawed better than her clutch mate we showed previously. So this is the last animal for the day. I'm gonna have a lot more stuff later in the year. King snakes, corn snakes, rat snakes, house snakes. Oh, that's a badass skull on her head. Sign up for my mailing list on IronTriangleReptiles.com to stay up to date with everything I have. Man, that skull on her head is so cool. And we'll see you tomorrow for day 2. Peace.
To build a terrarium. But today it's not going to be a tropical terrarium like I normally do. Today we're going to build an arid terrarium. I spend a lot of time talking about tropical terrariums and tropical plants, so today I thought we would do something a little bit different and build a tank for a Standing's day gecko. So these geckos actually come from the southwestern coast of Madagascar. They have a very tiny range. It's very hot, it's very dry. It's called the spiny forest. So we are going to build a dry, hot tank for these geckos. The Madagascar spiny forest is also home to lots of other really incredible creatures like lemurs, tortoises, very cool animals. There's chameleons that live in this hot, dry environment. Skinks, all sorts of critters have also adapted to living in these dry conditions. So today I'm going to set up a tank for an animal that, as we said, is found on baobabs. In the wild, I actually saw them most commonly on man-made structures. So they are finding shelter on things that people have built. There's a lot of open air structures, and you'll find them in the rafters and hanging out using those as shelter, which is pretty cool. So we're going to build something with a lot of climbing structures. They want to be up high, that's why it's a taller tank, so that they can really climb up here and have lots of spaces to hang out right underneath the lights. We're going to put some pretty bright lights on it, and it's going to be a pretty hot tank with a basking spot of about 110 degrees. Dropping to about 75 on the ground is what we're going to shoot for. That way they have a really wide range for thermoregulation. So when I'm setting up a tank, there's a couple things that I'm thinking about. One, I want it to mimic the environment where they come from, right? I want to create something, you know, that they would find in the wild. Maybe not the ponytail palm. This plant actually comes from Mexico all the way to Central America. They are found in the states of Oaxaca and Veracruz. They come from a very dry environment. They want to stay dry. They want bright light. It's actually my first time attempting to use them in a terrarium this way, so we'll see how it goes. I'm excited to try. I think they're a pretty cool plant. So I want a tank that's going to mimic the environment, and I also want a tank that's safe to the animal. I don't want my gecko to jump on a rock and the rock falls, right? What if the other gecko's underneath it? So I want everything to be very sturdy. That's really important, especially with bigger animals. And I want it to look nice, right? I want to come in and be like, oh, that's an awesome tank, right? If I have to look at it every day, I want it to be beautiful. Now that I've made it up high enough to get into this tank, we are going to dive right in. I'm gonna just kind of talk you through my process for building this tank. So one of the things with the ponytail palms is that they want a very tight base. They don't want a lot of soil. So I don't want to just plant it directly into this tank. I want to keep it contained. So I'm going to think about kind of where I want to put it. I'm going to hop in here and start adding things. I'm going to start with the biggest plants first, and I kind of went crazy with the plants. I'm going to put at least one ponytail palm in here. It's not actually a palm at all. This is in the agave family. Also, asparagus is also in the plant family that this is in. And the other big plant, I might put both in. We'll see what fits, because I got a really gigantic Sansevieria. Obviously, this whole plant is not going to fit in this tank, but Sansevieria is one of my favorite plants for day geckos in general, but for standing stay geckos, because standing stay geckos are going to get pretty big. You know, this is an adult gecko that's about this size. It creates a good space for them to bask right up underneath the light. Sansevieria is a plant that wants to get dried out, which is exactly what we need for this arid enclosure. And it also can take all sorts of different brightnesses of light. They tend to do really well in standing enclosures. And we have a couple of different types growing already in our tank. This is a new one for me. I'm not actually sure what it is. It's like very, very yellow. At first I thought there was something wrong with the whole batch of them, and then I realized that it was just a weird color variation. But obviously this plant is not going to fit in there, so I'm going to have to unpot it and break it up into clumps. I did bring a big tub. This is like the messiest thing, is repotting plants. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to shake it out. Alright, so we can see the roots here. I'm doing pretty good. Actually looks very happy in this. It's not root bound or anything. I can see the new mega mess. The new baby popping up right there. I'll pull it out. We'll get a better look at it. Sansevieria produce little pups and grow new plants. So what I'm going to look for here are the different pups, essentially, and break it apart where it's easy. So I'm going to kind of digging around the roots, because I don't want to damage the roots. I'm just going to shake it a little bit, and it's possible these were all actually different plants that were all put into the same pot. This one was not actually attached to that one, so this is actually just a totally different plant. And I'm going to take all its soil off, because you know the soil does have fertilizers in it, and I don't want to bring anything into the tank. I'm going to take this off. Now we just have roots, and I will actually rinse this before I put it in. I'm going to start to play with placement here. So I'm just going to start to throw them in here for now, and we'll start with a couple of them. Okay, here we go. Now you can see the baby popping off. So, you know, most of this was still underground in the dirt. And Sansevieria actually have a weird type of photosynthesis that can happen at night. So where most plants photosynthesize during the day, that's like a little note coming off here too, they can also photosynthesize at night, so also producing oxygen at night. Whereas a lot of plants apparently don't produce oxygen at night. Alright, let's see. I think we'll grab a few more. Oh, we got a bigger baby here. This one's coming off. So I'm starting to lose the whole thing off the table, so I'm going to go ahead and just bring it down. Continue to just take them apart. Another reason I really like these for Phelsuma standing eye is it is a really good laying spot. So they'll actually lay their eggs in the crick of the plant. Is that a word? In the crick. Okay, so do you see how it shot out and then it went straight up? It hit the side of the pot. So it was forced it to go up instead of outwards. Okay, so check this out. We have some Sansevieria with their pups. Check this one out. It curves up very nicely. Remember, part of this was still under the dirt. This one had a bit more out, but it goes out and then it very sharply goes straight up. So what happened is this was growing in the pot, it shot out its pup, it hit the side of the pot, and then it had to go straight up. So you can see the difference in growth there, which is kind of fun. I have separated 5 separate plants. Well, I'm still counting that one as part of its mom. I'm just gonna play with placement in here. I wanna think about where my heat lamp's gonna be, where my UV light's gonna be, and what plants can handle that. I'll probably have the heat lamp on this side, which is probably where I should stick the ponytail palm. Oh my god, what a mess. That's too many Sansevierias. Is this too many Sansevierias? Let's see here. I'm gonna pull 2 of them out. So okay, maybe 5 was too many. Stick them back in the pot for now. And think about the other big things going into my enclosure, which are gonna be wood, stuff for them to climb on. And I have a few different types of wood here. It's actually a dried jade plant, but one of the coolest looking things. This is some grapevine. And that actually does mildew in tropical terrariums, but for standing stay geckos and bearded dragons and stuff, this stuff works pretty good. I don't like it with crested geckos, gargoyle geckos as much. Then bamboo. They use the bamboo for laying their eggs and to hide. The babies love the bamboo and they'll spend all of their time just hanging out. So we got a bunch of different types of bamboo and also driftwood. So I am going to build the ponytail palm a little plant box. So I want it in this corner, so I'm going to pull everything back out, and I am going to bring in some rocks that I'm going to use to actually build a little wall. And the way that I'm going to stick these rocks together is using excavator sand. So we'll do that, we'll mix some of that up. Excavator sand is one of my favorite things to use in arid enclosures because you can really manipulate the environment. The downside is you have to, wait for it to dry. So we'll get this done today, and then we'll actually have to come back tomorrow to put the rest of it together because this part takes a day to dry. So I made like a really basic rock structure, and now I'm going to mix up some excavator sand, some water, and it's a clay-based substrate. So when you get it wet, it becomes kind of a clayy, liquidy thing. So, excavator sand. I'm going to just pour it into a container, and then I'm going to pour some water in, and then I'm going to start to mix it up. You can see how it's really starting to get very wet. I might have actually put a little too much water in here. I added a bit more sand in here because it was a little bit too squishy. I like it pretty squishy, but that was a little... You do you? Alright, so that's about as wet as... I just... Pour some in, mix and pour, mix and pour. Who reads? It's like making masa. You just cut a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and mix it till it feels right. Like, I should probably just measure. I've gotten this really, really wet here, and I am going to use it to kind of glue my rocks in place and build a little structure that will hold my ponytail palm. So I can take it out of its pot and put it in some of our substrate that we like to use for our animals here. This is how we're gonna do it. The 2 pieces pretty firmly, well, I mean, it's not firm till it dries, but they're puttied in there pretty well. Alright, so I have my two biggest rocks firmly embedded in the excavator sand here. Now I'm gonna just really pour it into the crevices that are left, and then I'm gonna fill the crevices with more rocks. So I'm really creating a rock wall here. And I'm making some rocks a little bit bigger than others, kind of to give it a little effect of a wall. So I'm just gonna really keep squishing rocks in here. And it's okay if it's messy right now. At the end, just when you go and you can clean it up, it just wipes right off when it's dry with like a little wet paper towel. So at the end, we'll clean it up. So you can see I'm really just adding a lot of it, and you see how wet it, why I wanted it so wet, so I can really stack them up. Building terrariums is one of my favorite parts of reptile keeping. I love creating little tiny habitats. And then I also think that if you have an animal in captivity, it's your, you know, it's your responsibility if you have that animal to give it the best possible life that you can give it. I didn't make quite enough, so I'm making a little bit more. So you can see I squeeze it, and it's now running through my fingers. It actually stays pretty well together. So my other one was a little bit wetter because I really wanted those rocks to just kind of sink into it. So this one's a little bit thicker because I'm starting to work up at the top where the rocks are smaller, and I need them to really stay in there. I'm just gonna continue to build this little rock wall by adding this denser clay, and you know, it's covering the other rocks, and we can fix that. I really want them to be as wedged in that clay as possible. But once it's dry, we'll do a test. You know, we'll poke it, we'll touch it, we'll see how it goes. If it falls easily, you know, it comes down, and we can rework it. That's the nice thing about this stuff. You just get it wet and you can like change it. It's not a big deal if it dries. It's not like watercolor painting. I don't have the patience for watercolor painting. This is forgiving. Actually fits surprisingly well right there, but let's pack it so that it stays. It's probably as tall as I'm getting on that side. I'm gonna just add a couple in for stability in the front, because the more stable we can make it, the better for the animals, the plants. You can see I'm really packing it in, because afterwards I'll go through and I'll clean up. I feel like this wall is almost tall enough. That's about everything I want to put into the rock wall for now. This is going to be basically the pot for our ponytail palm. So I'm going to kind of just pull out the extra wet stuff now, make sure that everything's kind of filled in nicely so that when it dries it's attached. And like I said before, it's okay if it's messy, we'll clean it up when it's dry. I'm adding in some smaller rocks to add texture in between the bigger rocks. Now that the rock wall is done, I have to kind of leave it alone because it's still wet, and if I hit it, stuff can fall. So we're gonna just let it sit overnight, come back tomorrow, and finish building this tank.
days in Castro Valley. And it's kind of been raining all day. And when it rains, our amphibian friends come out. We have a newt here. It's the first newt I've seen tonight. We saw 3 arboreal salamanders and Pacific chorus frog. In order to tell if this is a California newt or a rough skin newt, they both look very similar as we're looking at the bottom eyelid. And the bottom eyelid on these, right on this newt right here, is yellow. So this is a California newt. And if it were brown, it would be a rough skin newt. So this is Turrica terrosa, is its scientific name. And Turrica granulosa is the rough skin, and they look very, very similar. And in some places, their habitat actually overlaps, so you can find both in the same place. Alright, we're gonna stop blinding this little newt and see what else we find tonight. Looks like we've got our second newt of the evening here. This one is really, really small. It's about 2 inches long. Bark, and there is a gorgeous Uncetina salamander living underneath this piece of bark. This is actually the second Uncetina salamander that I've seen in the canyon in the 1.5 years. Granted, I mainly stay around the same area. Next door, the Uncetina salamander. Where was this one? This is a gentle reminder to always put an animal's house back first before you put them back. So this little salamander lives underneath this log. So I put the log down and then I put the salamander next to the log, and the salamander has already started to crawl underneath the log. So the salamander will find its new little spot. You don't want to put the salamander down first because you don't want to accidentally squish them. You want them to be able to go down there and find the little nooks and crannies that are best for them. I'm out in front of the facility and I just moved this tub off to find this little guy underneath. This is our Pacific chorus frog. He spotted me spotting him. I know it's a him because I heard him calling earlier. It was really taunting the dog. Because she could not find it. I found it on accident. I'm gonna leave it alone now. See you later, Froggo.
I'm John from the East Bay Vivarium in Berkeley, California. Welcome to the virtual show. Thanks for joining us. Today I'm going to show you a whole bunch of different snakes, but I thought I'd share with you a couple of cool things that you don't get to see too often. A couple of rough-scaled sand boas. One on my right here is an orange phase that I've been working on for many, many years, trying to reduce the pattern. And here on the left, a little bit more standard, what we'd expect to see in the more typical, what we might consider classic boa. Anyway, I'll show you guys some of the babies from both of these animals later on this afternoon. Stay tuned.
Okay, here we have rough-scaled sand boa number 1. This is one of the more classic style. This comes from the female that was more connected bands. You can see it's got a little bit of yellow color coming through, but is otherwise more standard. You can see here especially a little bit of the yellow on the dorsal patches. But the next animals you'll see are a little different. Here we go. This is the animal that I have gone to get the pattern reduced. We see a lot more yellow and a lot more reduced pattern. This is number 2. It's also a male, I believe. I'm sorry, this is a female. This is a female, as is this. Also yellow reduced pattern female. The first animal a male, so nice to get unrelated and different animals. So here we have a Kenyan sand boa number 1, a nice female with a nice broad orange stripe, almost complete. Really handsome animal. Super duper cheap. $65 is a steal for this girl. Number 2 is a male, a bit more on the yellow side, same kind of thing. We've got really nice striping going on, almost complete. Number 3 is more of a Dodomo spotted style type sand boa, another male, very handsome animal. And number 4, a bit of an orange striper going on. Again, really, really nice animal for $65. Unbelievable. Number 5, again, another yellow. Looks like more like the Dodomo, like the other yellow one we saw. A very spotted look to the animal. And another broad striper, another female. Looking good. Really, really nice. A little bit of a broken pattern on that stripe. Okay, and here we have a T-positive albino Sinaloan milk snake, het for splotch. Really nice animal, feeding on live only, but really, really, really nice animal for $350. Great starter project. And my favorite mountain king snake, the Durango mountain king snake, Mexicana greeri. Another female for $275. These are not something you see every day. A really, really cool snake. This is the number 2. It's also a female. Both of these are from a blue to green pairing. Really, really nice snakes. And a sunbeam snake. This is something we don't see as often as we'd like to. This is a long-term captive. This is something that customers had for a year or two and brought back to the store. These pictures just don't do it justice. You just have to see these things in real life to understand just how spectacular they are. Really, really nice animal. Well established. $99. Really cool animal. And the red mountain boa, same kind of thing. You can't see the iridescence or the red color that this animal has in these pictures. Just a crime for this poor animal's beauty. Ball pythons, $199 for the male orange dream Mojave. Just a stunning animal. Really, really nice. $199. Another ball python, the spider pastel super banana, very nice animal for $500. This is about a 3.5, 4-year-old animal. Has never been with other animals, but is definitely ready to start getting some cool projects going. We also have a female leopard ball python for $199. A little bit shy, but otherwise a really good-looking animal. And we have another view of her, a little bit of a side view to give you a cool idea of what she looks like. And another female in deep shed, unfortunately. She's already come out of shed since this video, but is spectacular, super pastel spider, basically a killer bee. Big giant female for $250, a steal. And the last ball python we have, fire spider cinnamon, which on this photo doesn't look anything like what we just described. Just looks like a spider, but it has got a really nice kind of a gray and faded background to it that you'd see in real life that you just don't see here in the picture. Really, really cool animal. And fat-tailed geckos, African fat-tailed gecko number 2 here, which is also het, 66% het, for caramel albino. This is a young animal, so it's unsexed, $75. We do have another one, which would be number 1, same thing, het for, 66% het for caramel albino. These guys are awesome. One of the best gecko pets you can get. Just super tame, super wonderful. $75. Okay, and the pinnacle from what we've been able to do in the fat tail department anyway, are these guys. This is our first gal here for $500. This is a tangerine albino whiteout fat tail gecko. This is a female. Awesome. I mean, these guys don't even look like the pattern fat tail gecko. Number 2 is the boy. Doesn't have quite as much whiteout going on. You can see he totally doesn't like the bright lights from the light box in the camera. It's going to go away, but it's awesome. Well-started fat boy here. We make a really nice breeding project. I would suggest anybody interested in this, please go online and do some price comparisons. I guarantee you're not going to find anything like this any cheaper. Awesome.
Welcome to our very first episode of Plants with Audra. I'm going to start off today with my top 5 plants for morning geckos. 2 things that I think about when I'm picking out plants for terrariums are humidity and temperature. Do they match the animal? And for morning geckos, they want to be in the 70s to low 80s. The basking spot of maybe, upper 80s, low 90s at the very, very hottest spot. So I'm looking for plants that want to be kept in that temperature range. And my geckos want to be pretty humid, so I'm thinking about plants that also want to be pretty humid. And my first plant for today is dracaenas. And dracaenas are a genus of about 120 species of plants, mainly from Africa. Some of them growing to be over 70 feet tall and living hundreds and hundreds of years. So really, really cool genus of plants. This is a Dracaena compacta, and this is probably my favorite species of Dracaena for morning geckos, crested geckos, because of how dense the leaves are. Lots and lots of leaves, creating lots and lots of hiding spots for small crested geckos, phalsumas, small phalsumas, Phalsuma lineata, laticata, Wilda's day geckos, peacock day geckos, line day geckos, tree frogs, small tree frogs, White's tree frogs, red-eyed tree frogs. All these animals would really love using these as hides. With morning geckos, I'm thinking about how many different hides can I provide for this tank, because with morning geckos, you have a female reproducing asexually and those eggs are hatching out in the enclosure. I'm thinking about where can all these babies hide and feel safe in the enclosure. So another type of Dracaena that we have here is the white bird, Dracaena white bird. It's not as dense, but it's got these really nice white tips here. So if you have a tank with just, 1 or 2 geckos, not morning geckos, these would be probably better for that, because you don't have to provide as much cover if there's not as many animals in the enclosure. These make great egg laying sites for phalsumas and other animals that lay their eggs in crevices as well. Morning geckos, however, do not lay their eggs in crevices. As a lot of you know, they glue them to things, which is really annoying. All right, my second plant on the list, syngoniums. Let's see what I have for syngoniums today. I've got two varieties of syngoniums. I like syngoniums because they add a little color pop to the tank, you know? You can see how dark these leaves are. There's pink ones, there's all sorts of different color variations of syngoniums. They come from southern Mexico into Central America. Syngoniums can grow up to 60 feet into the canopy using their roots, and they've got very soft leaves. So another thing I'm thinking about when I'm picking out plants is, can they handle the weight of the animal that's going in the enclosure? With mourning geckos, they're very, very small, so yes, these soft leaves can handle it. I would not put a syngonium in with a lychee because, one, they're huge and they would crush them, but also because of their nails would destroy these soft leaves really, really quickly. Our next plant is ficus. Let's talk about ficus. I have two ficuses here. This is a Ficus benjamina. If you want to put a tree into your terrarium, this is a great one. They really grow and fill the canopy, and so you're gonna have to trim it. And the really cool thing is about ficus, when you trim it, just pop whatever you cut off into water and it'll root, and you will have a new plant, a new little tree. So I have lots of little ficuses growing in a lot of my terrariums because I have to constantly trim them down because they grow right up into the light. So you definitely have to do some trimming with these guys, but they are a really awesome plant to have in terrariums for mourning geckos. Up next here we have our ginseng ficus. This is actually a bonsai tree and provides a really awesome trunk for animals to hang out on. I like to use these also in my day gecko enclosures. And my day geckos love the trunks, but they provide a lot of cover for small geckos, which is what I'm thinking about. And you're definitely gonna have to trim this back as well because they will grow right up to the top and actually grow right through the screen to get out of your enclosure. So sometimes you have a little tree popping out the top. So they definitely do need haircuts pretty regularly. Number 4 on our list is pothos. What's not to love about pothos? It is indestructible and it comes in a ton of different colors and varieties. So you are bound to find one that is right for you. I really like them because they fill in, well, the whole tank really, if you give them the opportunity. So this right here is a Pothos Enjoy. It's a shorter, more compact pothos, and it has smaller leaves. And this is a neon pothos. It's got the bright yellow leaves, and I have a golden pothos as well. And it's got the yellow speckling in the leaves. And you can see how much leaf cover they provide for an animal to hang out on. And this is also one of my favorite plants for crested geckos, gargoyle geckos, frogs. I think every frog tank I have has pothos of some sort growing in it because they do so well. And pothos, a vining plant, they can shoot off vines that grow, you know, dozens and dozens and dozens of feet long. And they use these aerial roots, you can see these long roots that they're shooting off here, to grab onto things and climb, right? So a lot of plants that live in the jungle where there's really thick foliage need to climb up to be able to reach light, like epiphytes, right? Bromeliads, air plants, they do that as well. Pothos are doing the same thing. They are climbing up other things to be able to reach light. And so when you put a pothos in your tank, it very well might grab onto the background of your enclosure. It might grab onto some cork bark or some oak bark you might have in there. It's gonna grab on and climb up to the top, which is pretty cool. So really awesome vine. Also, they tolerate a whole lot of variety of conditions. You can chop off a piece and put it in a cup of water and it'll just grow forever. So if you're ready for a house plant, but it's your first one, pothos is a great one. And I wanted to point out this one really quick. This is a neon pothos, and you can see the color variations just within this individual plant. So there's a lot of color variation within plants in general, but pothos as well. Plant number 5. This is actually my very favorite plant for mourning geckos. This is gotten very, very leggy because it's been grown with no light. Not no light, I don't have it in a closet, but it has low light. But umbrella plants or scheffleras are very tolerant of lots of different types of light conditions, which is pretty cool. But look at all these leaves. So many leaves. In my terrariums, they have really filled in the enclosure and provided a whole canopy of little leaves. You'll find morning geckos basking on all of them, hanging out right up underneath the light. So this is definitely my favorite plant for morning geckos. I have these in with all of my morning geckos. There are lots of different types of scheffleras, and this is a variegated schefflera. You can see the white along the edges. And it's also getting kind of low light, so there's not a lot of variegation because of that. You know, plants generally get more variegation when they're kept in brighter environments. That wraps up our first episode of Plants with Audra. What terrariums are you setting up right now that you have questions about? What reptiles and amphibians are you working with that you want to learn more about what plants would work for them? Let me know in the chat.
All right, friends, that wraps up day one of our virtual Reptile Expo. Don't worry, we have another full day of herps for you tomorrow, same time, same place. And just a reminder, everything on our website, 20% off through Sunday at midnight with promo code PINEAPPLE, including our full restock of amazing plants. We have a bunch of blooming Phalaenopsis orchids at the moment, and I really love these orchids for terrariums because of the big, thick leaves. We use them here for our morning geckos, our day geckos, our spherodactylus, all sorts of our animals really enjoy basking on these leaves. And then, of course, you get the bonus of some flowers every once in a while, if you're lucky. The other restock that we have right now is all of our air plants. So I brought out two that are blooming right now. Air plants change color when they're getting ready to bloom. So that's what's happening here. Both of these plants are normally green, but this one is turned purple and this one is turned pink as they're getting ready to bloom. And this one's got its little flowers already poking out, and this one has a flower that's gonna open. These are our prunoses, Tillandsia prunosus. And we have 5 of these available that have turned purple and are shooting out their buds. All 20% off on our website this weekend. If you have claimed sold on any of the animals for this weekend, be sure to email us right now to hold and reserve your animal. Otherwise, it'll go to the next person in line. One last thing, we will be hosting a pop-up next weekend. It'll be an in-person outdoor event at our facility. Masks are required, but we will have a huge array of plants, all of our dry goods available. And if there were some animals that you were thinking about this weekend but you want to meet in real life, come check them out next weekend here at our facility. We'll have a table available and you can actually meet some of the animals. I hope that you enjoyed our virtual Reptile Expo this weekend. I look forward to seeing and chatting with you all again tomorrow. Bye everyone.